Hi everyone, my name is Daniel, and in this video I will walk you through a quick introduction to AWS Elastic Container Service. So before we dive in, here is the quick overview of what topics I'll try to cover today. I'm going to talk about what Elastic Container Service actually is, how does it work, and finally I'll try to cover some key benefits of using the service itself. So let's get into it. First, what Elastic Container Service actually is. It is basically a managed service to run containers. We use it to deploy, manage, and scale container applications without really thinking about the infrastructure. We are creating the so-called ECS clusters, where we have different launch types like EC2, where we can launch a cluster based on Elastic Compute Cloud instances, and have like better control over the infrastructure to see the instances basically in the EC2 service in AWS. But in my opinion, the most interesting part about ECS are the feature where we can create a serverless clusters, the Fargate clusters, where we cannot actually see any instances, any virtual machines, and everything for us is serverless. Everything is managed by AWS, and we are focusing only on deploying the container applications. Also, AWS is currently supporting on-prem solution for ECS called Amazon ECS Anywhere, when you can use the service as an on-prem solution as well. Also, ECS integrates very well with many different AWS services, which is a really powerful thing in my opinion. We can integrate it with EC2 load balancers. We can integrate it with Secrets Manager to manage some secrets for our application. We can integrate it for identity access management with ECR, Elastic Container Registry, to pull our images, and many other services, which makes it easy to scale up, and even with monitoring services like CloudWatch for monitoring observability. And this is a really powerful thing when we try to cover the whole infrastructure behind our application. So, before we see how ECS works, let's take a look first on how the typical deployment workflow actually looks. We typically start by writing some code for our application, where developers write code, or operators write code, or some DevOps engineers, etc. And typically we're using some version control system like Git, where we keep our code, keep the versions, use some best practices like continuous integration, and so on. Once we reach a stable version of our application, we need to create a container image for it based on some server templating tool like Docker. And once we create this stable image, we need to use it to keep it somewhere, first of all. We're usually keeping the images in the so-called registries, like the official Docker registry, Docker Hub. But in my opinion, since we're talking about ECS and infrastructure in AWS, we need to use as much as AWS managed services we can. So in this example, we need to use the Amazon Elastic Container Registry, because we can create private repositories and give access to certain AWS services to pull our images and keep them secure, keep our code and our work secure. And finally, this is where actually ECS comes in. It comes and pulls our ECR images to deploy them, to scale them if needed, and so on. If we focus on the right side of this diagram, this workflow, we'll cover how actually the ECS works. Yeah, we are pulling images from the Elastic Container Registry, but we need to create a task definition. Task definition is like a blueprint of how our containers should run. They're JSON based, but we can also create them through the console, like step by step, in a really good user interface. But yeah, they're JSON based, and we are creating our definitions. And in our cluster, we use those definitions to create tasks. Those tasks basically are executing the task definitions inside a cluster, which already we talked about it. It may be EC2 based or Fargate based or on-premise. Also, there is one another abstraction. It's called service. Services are actually taking care of tasks. They ensure the tasks are running and scale automatically if needed, and if those settings are set, of course. So services are taking care if one task fail. They're trying to create another task to cover the failed one. So this is increasing the availability for sure. And of course, after deploying the application, deploying our services, which are creating the tasks, we can focus more on the monitoring of the application, integrations for with CloudWatch, for example, and many other services. And finally, what are the key benefits of using ECS? Of course, we first of all talking about the auto-scaling capability and scalability feature as a whole. We can scale up and down based on some load, some traffic, or whatever. Which can be really cost effective as well, because first of all, containers are lightweight than the EC2 instances, and we don't really need to allocate some CPU, some memory in advance. Yeah, we can set some limitations, but the application is trying to use as much as needed, and also we can auto scale it as a few tasks or more resources, whatever. And yeah, this is a really cost effective, a really powerful thing for auto scaling. The other two really big benefits I can see are the availability and flexibility. We talked about that services actually are managing tasks. So if one task fail for some reason, services are responsible to create another task to cover up the failed one. So this is really increasing availability. And also the flexibility part is that we can integrate with many other AWS services, which makes our application really flexible, and we can do like so many different infrastructure based on our application, our architecture, and so on. And yeah, if you want to deep dive even more into Elastic Container Service, here are some references and useful links you can follow along with AWS documentation itself. Thank you for your attention. Hope to see you soon. Bye bye.